All right, let's see here. That can't be right. Maybe... No, that's not right either. I guess that means this stuff's expensive. Hello and welcome back to another ranked review. Today we are looking at Gyeon's Cure Redefined. And disclosure time, I did not pay for this. This was sent to me by Carzilla. They reached out after a few back and forths on some previous products, like my ADS beads, and they offered to send a few products because they wanted to see them tested in this test, and so that's where this came from. I did not pay for it. There's no links below to them. I have no discount codes or affiliate links. This is just where it came from because that's where I do most of my shopping anyways. As far as this product's concerned, this is their maintenance spray standalone topper. It has a wet and dry use, but it's quite pricey. Like, I've never tried the previous version of Cure, but yeah, I was surprised at how expensive this is. And I don't know about Gyeon's site, but at least on Carzilla's site, this is the biggest size it comes in. So I normally score my pricing based on the smallest size, but in this case, I'm actually going to score it on the biggest size, which is 500 ml. You can get it at 100 or 250. I'll put that pricing in there for reference, but we're scoring it on the 500 ml because 16 ounce, 500 ml, whichever the smallest regular size bottle is kind of how I want to score it, because this is enough to do what all the other products do for that quantity of volume. But one thing you have to ask then is, what do you get for your money? Like, where is it strong? Where is it weak? And it's got some interesting performance, let's just say. So let's stop talking and look at it. We'll start with the application, gloss and fill, hydrophobics, and then back for the conclusion. All right, up next is Gyeon's Cure Redefined. This is a brand new product, just showed up. Oops. The shoulders are too wide for that. There we go. I've been playing around with this a smidgen. It's got an interesting trigger with a very specific lock tab. I've seen that on some other products before, like Sonex's ones, but it's supposed to be the upgraded, the improved version of the old Cure, which I never owned. I never owned the old Cure, but it smells the business, man. It smells like a There's like a fragrance like you'd find in like a household cleaner, laundry detergent, sort of like cover up the chemical smell fragrance, but it is a chemical smell. It's a thicker product too. It's quite milky in the bottle, and it smells the business. That's one of the things that strikes me the most about using this, is like this. It smells stout and it applies stout. It's not brutal, it's not super grabby or anything, but you can see clear, distinct lines, not watery whatsoever. It's a thicker material on the panel. But yeah, I kind of like the smell, even though it smells very bad for me. I don't know, I always gravitate towards that smell. I always like the smell of gasoline and diesel, so that's the person I am. Just kill myself with smells. But yeah, this stuff, and I find anyone who gets like hard time applying, go over it a bit, like work it in, thin it out. You'll have less to wipe off afterwards, like that. Not too bad. It's not the slickest thing right now. Once I cut through it all, we'll see what that changes. It's definitely a harder buff than the average. So far in this series, the average has been pretty decent. There's some really great ones, and then a couple like my nightmares, and then, no offense to the nightmares, but a couple nightmares, and then everything else in that pretty generally decent range. But I mean, without too much faffing or effort, it's already settled down and it's done. It's done wiping. It's more grippy. It's not the slickest thing ever. It's thick to spread. It's not terrible to spread. The buff, it's got a little drag. It's not the worst I've ever had. But it's not slick. Like, it's not bad, but comparatively speaking to shiny wax, which is right here, yeah, no, it's not that slick. So not too bad. I like this chemical smell, but it's a pretty strong chemical smell. If you're spraying an entire car in a really tight and closed space, you might find it a little overwhelming. It's definitely in a medium level. Again, I'm spraying it and I'm right at face level with the whole experience, so I don't. If you're standing at a hood or over a roof, you might not have the same feel. But right now, it's pretty intense. So that's where I'll leave that for now. But yeah, it smells stout. It applies stout, and we'll see if it's stout. Moving on. All right, we've got Gyeon Cure Redefined here, untouched, and then the clean, polished section there. Tape. There we go. Okay, let me adjust this again because I screwed it up. There we go. So, unpolished. So I don't know about you, but I can see a little bit of a line, but it's not nearly as defined. Like, you see how this swirls as you get up to it. It's just not quite as good. This section in general is, it's darkened it for sure. Let me turn this light on, see if that helps. I guess it doesn't help if I block it. You can see it's a little darker, but actually that's not helping at all. Bye-bye. Yeah, it's a little darker. It's a little bit more filled compared to the top, but if you see there, in general, it's just pretty in line with the panel as it does. So yeah, it did a okay job. It may have other strengths, spoiler alert, but we'll get into that later. But yeah, overall, it's okay. It's your minimum amount. It'll spruce things up for sure, but don't expect it to be a night and day difference. So yeah. Anyway, moving on. All right, so we are at the scorecard, the ranking here. We've looked at all of the performance aspects that I can control and test, not just test like outdoors. And there's some serious clear strengths to this product and then some very serious clear weaknesses. And a few interesting strengths just sort of outside the scope of the test, but they're worth mentioning. So first things first, price. Price is a 2 out of 10. It is $49.99 Canadian for the 500 ml bottle, but it is available in smaller sizes. However, if you want a large quantity of it, it is a terrible value to buy the smaller sizes. The 100 ml bottle, which is going to come with a worse trigger, is $14.99, which would be $74.95 for a 500 mils by buying 5 of them. So that's a terrible value. The 250 ml bottle is $33.99, which would be $67.98 to buy 500 mils. So if you want 500 mils, buy the 500 mil. So yeah, $50, just under $50 is a 2 out of 10. Once you start going over 50, it's a 1. Once you get into the ridiculous and 60s and 70s, then it's a 0. So this is a 2. But it does have a few things that are strong for, even with the price point. There's other expensive products, but slickness in application is about a 4. It's not very slick. The paint will be smooth, but it would have been that way after polishing it anyways. So it's really hard to give it a high score in slickness. It's not the worst thing I've ever felt. Like there's some products like PNS, for example, is very grabby, but yeah, it's not the slickest thing out there, but it's just good enough that the application isn't terrible. The application experience is about a 6. It's easy to spread. It doesn't take a lot of work to buff it off. It's just that low slickness and the scent could be polarizing. If I had to describe it, it would be laundry detergent and petroleum, or a solvent or something like that. It's a very forward chemical, and it's definitely in the medium strength range. It's not it does have a perfume to it. So yeah, that all contributes in this application experience with the strong smells and the more effort required. You're not there forever, but it isn't smooth and slick and light, easy. So that's the scoring there. Hydrophobics, I'm giving it a 10. They were great. They looked very good. I've had this on a section of the hood on the car, and they looked great there too. So yeah, I really like the hydrophobics on this. I think they're top notch. They're nice tight beads. There's a lot of speed to the movement of it. So I really like that. I thought the hydrophobics were good. Chemical resistance is also very good. I gave it a 9 out of 10. It hung around all the way to the end. Very little drop. You could see that the shape of the water was starting to a little less perfect, but it still was moving off the panel really quickly and reacting. So that's good to see. It's good to see it stands up. Filling was about average, just above that sort of 3 out of 10. I gave it a 4. It did do a little more darkening than that mean low end, like the 2 notches up instead of 1 notch up from nothing. So I didn't find it too bad there, but definitely things like shiny wax or luster, they are going to easily outclass this. The bottle and trigger, I love Gyeon's bottles. I think they look so good. Their design is just amazing. The wet coat bottle, I'll never throw it away. I just use it for my other ones. But yeah, I really enjoyed the bottle shape and design, and their label design is very classy and elegant looking. I don't like the trigger because it's not variable. But if you want one with a really solid lock, then this is a good trigger for that. Although with the spinny ones, you just lock them out that way. But it doesn't leak, but it's got the little G stamped in it. So it's not nothing. It's not just a generic dollar store trigger, but I prefer variable. That's my thing. And the label is good. It's got the information you need to know. It tells you lots of use cases. There's a QR code for tutorial. Lots of brands have that nowadays, but very simple instructions, but effective. So They get what you need in a minimal amount of text. There isn't a bunch of marketing wank telling you about how super awesome their beads are when their beads aren't that awesome, which is a North American thing, I think. But otherwise, it's good. When you read up on this, it can be used over top of a freshly applied coating to provide protection, which is a nice thing. That gives this a very unique benefit over some brands potentially. I know there's other brands that have their things too, but that is a nice benefit of this. At least if you like using Gyeon's coatings, which they've got pretty good coatings out there. You can use this immediately in that 1 hour, after that 1 hour amount of cure, to provide a little bit of protection for like water spotting or something like that, if that's something you deal with. So that is a nice feature. And it does have a wet use, which is also nice, which, something that this smell, I didn't think it would be able to do that, but it does. But because of the low price score and the low slickness and application scores, it doesn't get anywhere near the top. This guy here comes in at 38 out of 64. If I didn't say it, the label's a 2. Bottle, trigger 1, label 2. There, I said it. So yeah, 38 out of 64. Real hit hard with the price, and the work involved in the application is where it really suffered. If those were higher up and it maintained the rest, this would be a very strong product. If the price is no option and you don't care about grabby products, this might be a great one to look at. I don't have real world testing on it yet, but we will down the road. So, stay tuned for that if that's what you're interested in. But yeah, in this type of testing, it did quite well as far as like the chemical and the water stuff. Gloss and fill, there's a lot of products that don't really do, much more than what this did anyways. So yeah, just the value proposition is a little tough. So yeah, thank you for watching. See you in the next one.